Hello students. Students, welcome you all to the English class. And now let's continue our 7th chapter Evans Tries an O Level, written by Colin Dexter. Students, we had ended the previous session at the point when Evans demands for the blanket while taking the exam, and McLeary allows him to get the blanket, and then he continues his exam. And now let's continue our chapter and see what happens next. At 10:51 am, Stephens was more than a little surprised to see a grey regulation blanket draped round Evan's shoulder. Draped means covered. Draped round Evan's shoulders, and he frowned slightly and looked at the examinee more closely. Now, at 10:51, Stephens he became more than a little surprised when he saw that the blanket was covered around Evan's shoulders. He became a little bit angry, and then he looked at examinee more closely. But Evans, the pen still between his teeth, and was starting just as vacantly as before. But Evans was still holding the pen between his teeth, and he was looking just as vacantly as before. He was looking thoughtlessly, he was not doing anything. Blankly beneath a blanket. Should Stephens report the slight irregularity? Now he was still blank beneath a blanket, under the blanket, and then he feels should Stephens report the slight irregularity. Anything at all fishy. And everything was looking him doubtful. Fishy means doubtful. Hadn't Jackson said? He looked through the peephole once again, and even as he did so, Evans pulled the dirty blanket more closely to himself. And while he was looking through the peephole, he saw that Evans was pulling the dirty blanket more closely to himself. Was he planning a sudden Batman leap to suffocate McLeary in the blanket? Then he thought Batman leap means to jump. Then he thought that Vance would be making a plan to suffocate McLeary under the blanket. Don't be daft. Daft means silly. And then he tells to himself, don't to be silly. There was never any sun on this side of the prison. No heating either during the summer months, and it could get quite chilly in some of the cells. But then he felt that the sun does not comes inside the prison, and maybe they are not getting heat as it is a cold days, and he might be getting quite chilly. Stephens decided to revert to his earlier every minute observation. Revert means to return. And then he decided to return to his earlier every minute observation, as he was looking through the peephole every minute, and now he thought that he would do the same thing now. At 11:20 am, the receiver once more crackled across the silence of the governor's office, and McLeary informed Evans that only 5 minutes remained. Now again there was once again there was ring inside the governor's office, and it was time 11:20. And McLeary informed Evans that only 5 minutes were remaining to the exam. The examination was almost over now, but something still gnawed away quietly in the governor's mind. Gnawed means uncomfortable, but still there was something that was still uncomfortable in the mind of governor, as examination was about to get over, but still something was puzzling him. There was something uncomfortable in his mind. He reached for the phone once more. Once more he wanted to call to someone. At 22 am, Jackson shouted along the corridor to Stephens. The governor wanted to speak with him. Again there was a call for Stephens. Jackson shouted along the corridor to Stephens, and he said that governor wanted to talk to him. Hurry man, Stephens picked up the phone apprehensively. Apprehensively means very fearfully, and listened to the rapidly spoken orders. And there some orders were given to Stephens by governor. Stephens picked up the phone very fearfully, and he heard to the rapidly spoken words, very quickly spoken orders of the governor. Stephens himself was to accompany McCleary to the main prison gates. Understood? Stephens personally was to make absolutely sure that the door was locked on Evans after McCleary had left the cell. Understood? Understood? And now there were the orders for Stephens that Stephens had to accompany to McCleary, and he would leave him till the main gate. He would take him till the main gate, the main prison gate, to the main prison gate, and Stephens was also to make absolutely sure that the door was locked on Evans after McCleary had left the cell. And this order was also given to him that he had to accompany to McCleary to the main prison gates, and also he had to check whether the gate is locked or not after the McCleary had left the cell. And at 11:25 am, the governor heard the final exchanges. And again, governor heard the noises inside the cell, and it were the noises of the final exchanges. Now again there is conversation between McCleary and Evans. McCleary, stop writing please. Silence. McCleary, put your sheets in order and see they are correctly numbered. Again there is silence. Scraping of chairs and tables. Scraping means here the sound of an action of rubbing, means the chairs and tables are rubbed, and there is the sound of chairs and tables inside the cell. And McCleary is ordering him to put the sheets in order as the examination was over. Evans, thank you very much, sir. McCleary, all right, was it? Evans, not too bad. Then McCleary asked how the exam was. Then Evans said that it was not bad. McCleary, good. Mr. Stephens, very loud. McCleary then says good, and then he calls to Mr. Stephens and he speaks very loudly. The governor heard the door clang for the last time the examination was over. Now once again the governor heard the sound of the door when it was closed, and it was the last time when he heard this noise as the examination was over. How did he get on, do you think? Asked Stephen as he walked beside McCleary to the main gates. As he was accompanying McCleary to the main gate, and while he was going with him, he asked him how he had done. Ouch, I cannot think he has distinguished himself. Distinguished means differentiated. Now he feels now. McCleary told him that I cannot think that he has done differently. He has done something good. I am afraid. His Scots accent seemed broader than ever, and his long black overcoat reaching almost to his knees fostered means developed the illusion imagination that he had suddenly grown slimmer. Now, while Stephens was accompanying McCleary on the way, he was talking about Evans, whether he has done good in the exam or not, but he found something different there. His Scottish accent, as he was speaking in a Scottish language, his accent was something broader than before, and even his long black overcoat was reaching almost to his knees now, and it had developed the illusion, the imagination that he had also grown slimmer. Now it seemed that while looking at the McCleary, his appearance had changed totally. Stephens felt pleased that the governor had asked him and not Jackson to see McCleary off the premises. But now Stephens was feeling very much happy that the governor had chosen him to see McCleary off the premises, not Jackson. And all the morning had gone pretty well, and everything was done very well in the whole day. But something stopped him from making his way directly to the canteen for a belated cup of coffee. But as he was going to the canteen for the belated cup of coffee that had already lated, and now something stopped him. He didn't go there, he didn't go towards the canteen. He wanted to take just one last look at Evans. Now, for the last time, he wanted to look at Evans. It was like a program he had seen on TV about a woman who could never really convince herself that she had locked the front door when she had gone to bed. And As he wanted to have a last look at Evans, his this imagination has been compared to a TV program. In the TV program, it was about a woman who could never be convinced, who would never convince herself that she had locked the front door or not. And then when she had gone to bed, often she had got up 12, 15, sometimes 20 times to check the bolts. And after she goes to bed, she gets up to check whether she had mm, she gets up to check the bolts 15, sometimes 12, 15, or sometimes 20 times. He re-entered the wing, made his way along to Ivan's cell, and opened the peephole once more. Again he went to the D wing where his exam was conducted and opened the peephole once more. He opened the peephole, the keyhole. Oh no, Christ, no. There, sprawled back in Ivan's chair, was a man. For a semi-second, Stephens thought it must be Evans. And then he saw through the peephole that sprawled means lying with arms and legs spread out. He found that somebody was lying on Ivan's chair and his arms and legs were spread out. And for a half second, he thought it might be Evans. It must be Evans. A grey regulation blanket slipping from his shoulders, as the grey regulation blanket, the blanket that he had got after the permission of McCleary, that was slipping from his shoulders. The front of his closely cropped, irregularly tufted hair awash with fierce red blood which had dripped already through the small black beard and was even now spreading horribly over the white clerical collar and down into the black clerical front. And he found that the blanket was slipping from his shoulders. The front of his closely cropped, irregularly tufted. Tufted means bunch of hairs, awash with fierce red blood, and his hair were, the bunch of hair was filled with red blood, and which had dripped already through the small black beard, and the blood was dripping through the small black beard, and then it was spreading horribly over the white clerical collar. It was spreading over the collar and then down into the black clerical front and then down the overcoat. Means his head was his hair was filled with red blood and they were dripping through the small black beard and then they were spreading horribly over the white collar and then down the black clerical front, then down the overcoat. Stephens shouted wildly for Jackson, and the words appeared to penetrate the curtain of blood that veiled McCleary's ears. Penetrate means to enter deep inside. And Stephen shouted wildly for Jackson. He shouted so wildly that the words appeared to penetrate the curtain of blood that veiled McCleary's ears. That veiled means here covered. That it seemed that the words had gone through the blood that were covering the McCleary's ears, for the minister's hand felt feebly for a handkerchief from his pocket. And the priest wanted the handkerchief from his pocket, and his hand was feeling very feebly, very weak, and held it to his bleeding head. And then he took the handkerchief and held it to the bleeding head, the blood seeping slowly through the white linen, and blood was flowing through the white linen. He gave a long, low moan. He started crying very slowly and tried to speak, but his voice trailed away. He was trying to speak, but he could not. His voice was becoming gradually quiet, and then it stopped. He was not able to speak. And by the time Jackson had arrived and dispatched Stephens to ring the police, and meanwhile Jackson arrived there, and then he told Stephens to call the police and the ambulance. The handkerchief was a sticky, squelchy wad of cloth. Now the handkerchief was seemed to be sticky. It had become sticky with blood, and also the large piece of wet cloth, it was making sound. The large piece of cloth means here the handkerchief, and while touching it was making the sound. Means the handkerchief was filled with blood so much that while touching it, it was making the sound. McCleary slowly raised himself, his face twisted tightly with pain. Now McCleary tried to raise himself, but his face was twisting. He was feeling pain. Dina, worry about the ambulance man. Dina means don't worry about the ambulance man. I am alright, I am alright, get the police. But McCleary told them that don't call the ambulance but call the police. I know where he. Now he wanted to say that he knew where Evans was. He closed his eyes and another drip of blood splashed like a huge red raindrop on the wooden floor. As he closed his eyes, the drip of blood again fell noisily from his head. It was a very huge red raindrop and it had fallen on the wooden floor. His hand felt along the table, found the German question paper, and grasped it tightly in his blood-stained hand. Even he wanted to pick the German question paper. He held it very tightly. He held it from the table, and he held it in his blood-stained hand. Get the governor. I know where Evans. He wanted to go to governor, and he said that he knew where Evans was. So the person who was sitting inside the cell, sitting on the chair inside the cell, it was not Evans as Stephens had imagined. It was McCleary, and he was hurt by Evans. Almost immediately, sirens were sounding. Prison officers barked orders. Puzzled prisoners pushed their way along the corridors. Doors were banged and bolted, and phones were ringing everywhere. Now there was noise everywhere. As everybody was puzzled, the prisoners were pushed their way along the corridors. The doors were making the sounds. They were shut and closed. The phones were also ringing everywhere. And within a minute, McCleary with Jackson and Stephens spotting him on either side, his face now streaked means there were lines on his face, and caked with drying blood. Caked means coated with drying blood, was grated in the prison yard by the governor, perplexed and grim. Perplexed means who was disturbed and who was sad. Now McCleary was taken to the governor's office by Jackson and Stephens, and the face of McCleary was filled with blood. We must get you to the hospital immediately. I just don't. You have called the police? Now, governor wanted to take him to the hospital immediately, but McCleary stopped him. He interrupted him and he asked for the police if they had called the police. Yes, they are on their way. But, and also governor said that yes, the police was coming and it was on their way. I am all right. Look here. Awkwardly, he opened the German question paper and thrust it before the governor's face. Thrust means it moved it before the governor's face. And he said he opened the German question paper and told to governor to look the question paper. It's there. Do you see what I mean? The governor looked down and realized what McCleary was trying to tell him. Then McCleary looked down on the question paper and he understood. He realized what McCleary wanted to tell him. A photocopied sheet had been carefully and cleverly superimposed over the last originally blank page of the question paper. He found that a photocopied sheet had been kept over the last blank page of the question paper. Ye see what they have done, governor, ye see. His voice trailed off again as the governor dredging the layers. Dredging means he was managing to remember the layers of long neglected learning, willed himself to translate the German text before him. Now, as McCleary was telling to the governor to see inside the question paper, and he suddenly stopped. He could not speak properly. His voice again became quiet and he stopped talking. And then governor managed to remember something. He managed to remember the learning that he had neglected. He tried to translate the German text that was before him. Sei sollen dem schon verabredeten Plan genau folgen, der Wichtigkeit first 3 Minuten vor Ende des Examens. It was written in German language. It means You must follow the plan already. Something, the vital point in time is 3 minutes before the end of the examination, but something. Don't hit him too hard. Remember, he is a minister and don't overdo the Scots accent when. And now it was written on the page that was kept inside the question paper. It was written there that before the exam gets over, before 3 minutes of the end of the exam, you have to do something. And also keep in mind that don't hit too hard to the your examinee, as he is remember, he is a minister, he is a priest. And also the instructions were given there that not to overdo the Scottish accent, as the minister was, the priest was of Scottish descent. He spoke in the Scottish language, and this it was instructed to Evans that not overdoing the Scottish accent. When means here when he runs away from the jail, from the prison. So students, I think it's enough for the day. The remaining part of the chapter we will do in the next class. Till then, goodbye and have a nice day ahead.